Hi, I'm Christy and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with my November reading wrap-up. So usually I do two wrap-ups for the month. I do a mid-month and then an end-of-month wrap-up. For November, I just never got around to filming my mid-month wrap-up. So we're here today to wrap up all 38 books I read in the month of November. So November is just a busy time of the year with getting ready for the holidays, decorating the house, Thanksgiving. We also have my husband's birthday and then our daughter's birthday as well is in November. So like tons of family time, all the things happening. So yeah, I didn't get to my mid-month wrap-up, but we're just going to jump into all 38 today. Of course, as always, if you ever want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I talk about, I do review every single book I read on Goodreads, and a link to that is always in the description of all of my videos. So with all of that out of the way, we're just going to jump into it. I started reading holiday reads in November, so a bunch of them are going to be holiday reads. I had some hits, I had some misses. Let's just get into it. First up, I read A Holly Jolly Ever After by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. This one I ended up giving 4 stars to. So this one is a holiday romance that exists in their Christmas Notch series, which they did a Merry Little Meet Cute last year. I really enjoyed that one, so I decided to give this one a go as well. These are basically Hallmark, but with a ton of spice. And this one we follow two semi-famous celebrities who become co-stars on an adult holiday film together. So basically she had a good girl reputation her whole life. She was kind of on a faith-based channel, movies and TV shows, things like that. Her family definitely had her life planned out for her. She recently got divorced and she's just like second guessing all of the decisions that other people made for her life. And then the hero, he was a former bad boy for like a boy band back in the day. They were both like popular around the same time. So they were kind of in each other's circle. He always crushed on her, which I loved. So they're both going to be filming this kind of like adult holiday movie together. This one was a lot of fun. I really loved the first half of it, especially. And here the heroine, she decides to kind of take charge of her sexuality and asks the hero for lessons, because during one of the scenes that they are filming, the director and other people around the stage at the time and the hero, they can tell like she's not comfortable faking anything. And she's like, well, how can I fake something like I never experienced? So she asks him for like sensual lessons, which I always love to see. This one, like I mentioned, the beginning was really good. It super pulled me in. I'd like to see the heroine kind of discover her own sexuality, like I said, and she also kind of takes on all of that kind of purity culture she was raised in, so I really liked that. The second half of the story does definitely take a turn. I wasn't as invested in it, but like it didn't bother me at the same time. There's a certain trope that comes up, which if you want to know, I guess check Goodreads for spoilers and things like that. But yeah, all in all, I liked this one and gave it 4 stars. Next, I read A Blue Ribbon Romance by Sam Nascosta, and this one was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. So I originally read Morning Glory at Milking Farm a couple years ago. Like when it came out, I read it, had so much fun with that one and loved it. It's a monster romance. And so when I was at the recent Steamy Lit book signing in Anaheim in August, I got to meet the author there for the first time, and she had this one on her table, and I was like, ooh, what is this book? And I think Samantha was with me in line, and so she's like, ooh, this is actually like from the hero's POV of Morning Glory Milking Farm. And I was like, done, say less, I'm buying it, like, yes, please. So it was so much fun just being in the hero's head for a lot of things that went on in Morning Glory Milking Farm. I loved it. He's so sweet. The most protective cinnamon roll hero ever. Loved it so much. Like I definitely had a good time with this one and gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Her Baseborn Bridegroom by Alice Coldbreath. I originally read this author a couple years ago and had a good time with her historical romance, so I decided to give this one a go as well. This is the first book in a series from her following brothers. This is medieval. I had a good time with this one and gave it 4 stars. This is an indie historical romance, and all of her audios, I believe, are on Hoopla as well, so definitely check that if you have access to Hoopla. And yeah, I just had a good time with this one. This is a historical romance, medieval set, and it is a marriage of convenience. Basically in here, the heroine was raised by her uncle and her aunt, and she was kind of always raised to believe that she was unsightly and sickly just because she has a ton of freckles and very bright red hair. So the heroine's just kind of always lived this like lonely life in her castle, but she is a lady, and so her uncle at the beginning of the story has her in this arranged betrothal with like this sir who is supposed to come and meet her and all of those things for the wedding. So he ends up not showing up, and in his place one of his brothers does, and he's his baseborn brother, which is basically like he's a bastard son. So the heroine decides to take her life in her own hands when he shows up, and she offers a marriage to him. So I loved seeing that. I loved how the heroine just kind of takes charge of her life, realizes all the lies that her uncle has been telling her whole life, and it just kind of like takes charge and makes decisions for herself. I feel like if you enjoy Julie Garwood's historical romances, you would definitely enjoy this author as well. So yeah, check it out. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read An Island Princess Starts a Scandal by Adriana Herrera. This one I had such a good time with and gave it 4 stars. This is a sapphic historical romance. It's set in Paris. I love this one. One of the heroines is a Dominican artist, and then the other one is this kind of like ruthless, badass in business Duchess heroine. So like I mentioned, one of the heroines is a Dominican artist, and she kind of wants this one last chance of summer of freedom before she has to go into this loveless marriage. And so she sets off to Paris, and that's where she meets the other heroine. I love seeing these two fall for one another and just the very sweepingly romantic moments we get in here. Kind of quiet moments. I love the lush Parisian setting as well. This one just felt like a breath of fresh air, and I really enjoyed it. I did read the first book in the series by this author, which kind of follows the same friend group earlier this year. That one I liked. This one I enjoyed more though. So yeah, definitely check it out. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. I got this one from a recent Book of the Month box, and this one I ended up giving it 3 stars too. So I read this author in the past. I read her entire, like the 4 books that she has out for the like Practical Magic series, and those ones I really enjoyed. So I was looking forward to this one because it kind of has that historical fiction mixed with magical realism vibe as well. But yeah, this one sadly just kind of didn't do it for me, and I gave it 3 stars. So like I mentioned, it's historical fiction, kind of magical realism. I feel like the author's writing really works well for that setup because she has this very like dreamy, ethereal type of style of writing, which really works for me. I will say the first half of the story I was super invested in and really enjoyed. It was the last half that kind of took a turn that kind of lost my interest. So in this one we follow the main character Mia, and we kind of see the complex relationship she has with her mother, and she's raised in this cult, and the complex relationship she has with her stepfather as well, who is the leader of the community. And we see Mia kind of become a teenager, and she starts to go to this library and read books and kind of discover all of these words and worlds that are out there that are kind of denied to her, or like she's not supposed to go and read books as part of their cult. I was really enjoying that. Like, cults are always super intriguing and interesting to read about. But then the second half kind of lost my interest because it does take this turn, and we start to follow like Nathaniel Hawthorne and the Scarlet Letter and all of those things. So yeah, the first half was great, and that's why I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Next up, I read Trick Shot by Kayla Grouse, and this one I ended up giving it 4 stars to, and this was just such a fun MMF holiday Christmas novella. We have a plus size rep, which I believe the author always writes. We have a mistaken identity, a one night stand that leads to more. And basically in here, the heroine ends up at an airport on Christmas Eve, and she's kind of stuck at this bar, and she ends up meeting one of the heroes there, and she mistakes him for his twin brother, who's like an NHL star, but the hero she's talking to is not the hockey player. He's the agent for his twin brother. He kind of just goes along with it and pretends that he is his brother. They end up leaving the airport together when their flights get delayed, and he invites her back to his house with his roommate, who is also like his friend, and they've also have this like relationship that they've had going on. So he invites her back with them, and it's just like a fun time of seeing all of them together. This one is super spicy. It's also emotional as well, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, if you're gonna check out a holiday romance novella this year, definitely check out this one. Then I jumped into Christmas Cupid by Ilsa Madden Mills. This one was basically, I saw it on Instagram a ton, loved the cover, and so I decided to jump in. This author in the past has been very hit and miss for me, and this one was sadly a miss for me. I gave it 3 stars. This one is a hate to love novella where the heroine designs boots. She's like a fashion designer for boots, cowboy boots, things like that. The hero is her brother's teammate and a hockey star. So basically they end up getting snowed in, stuck at the same cabin together for the Christmas season, and it kind of just goes from there. This one just felt kind of surface level. I never really got the heroine's like strong hatred that she has for the hero, and there were some moments in this one that like the dialogue and some scenes that happen like were kind of weird to me, like so yeah, like low 3 stars for this one. Next, I read The Winter Breakup by Carrie Aarons. This one I gave 3.5/4 stars. So this is another new holiday romance, and this one basically is a second chance between ex-high school sweethearts as well as a brother's best friend, and they all work at a Christmas tree farm together. So in here, the hero and the heroine, they were high school exes. They actually grew up together their whole life. He was friends with her brother, and therefore her as well. They all grew up in this small town, and they all also worked at her family's Christmas tree farm every Christmas. So now they're all in college. They've split up, like they haven't been together for I think 3 years or something. And basically the heroine's brother asks the hero like, hey, while you're in town for the holidays, like we should all just work back at my family's Christmas tree farm, like for old time's sake, before we all graduate college and like go off and have our real life jobs, because the hero is about to become this like superstar like soccer player. So yeah, it kind of goes from there. It was cutesy. I liked in here how we don't have any flashbacks. Like I'm not anti-flashback, but I liked how in here we didn't have to rely on flashbacks to get the history and kind of chemistry between the couple. So yeah, I did appreciate that. I also really liked the anxiety rep in here. Like the heroine is on anxiety meds, and she talks to the hero about kind of her triggers and things that she has going on with her anxiety. So I did like that conversation as well. So yeah, 3.5/4 stars for this one. Next, I jumped into After the Storm by Laura Pavlov. This is the fifth and final book in the Cottonwood Cove series, and I love this book so much. I gave it 5 stars. This was my favorite read of November. I loved it so much. My favorite in the series. So good. It's going to be on my favorites of the year list as well. If you love small town, single dad, and second chance romances, definitely read this one. It is the epitome of all of those tropes, and it is just so, so good. This book, I laughed, I cried, I swooned, I cried some more. Like, I was a mess reading this book, but like in the best way possible. This one is just so, so good. Like, I don't even want to say too much about it because I just loved it so much and I need everybody else to like experience it too. But it's just so good. I loved it. 5 stars. Next, I read The Stone and the Star by Gillian Graves, and this one was a monster gargoyle novella, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. This one was just like everything I ever wanted in a monster gargoyle romance. It's a novella, it's steamy, it's sweet. It was just so much fun. Like, if you love gargoyle romances, definitely check this one out. Basically, in here, the heroine is an artist. I think she does like pottery, and she's at a college, and so she is in her room on campus, and there is this like gargoyle statue out on the campus, and he is the hero, and he like comes alive and can watch her, and he ends up actually saving her one night when she's almost attacked, and it kind of goes from there. He has been pining over her for a while and just like afraid to kind of show himself to her. And I just loved it. Like, it's so sweet, it's so swoony, it's so steamy, such a fun time, like a cute little novella. If you love monster romances, definitely check it out. Next, I jumped into An Ill-Made Match by Alice Coldbreath, and this one was the 3rd book in the series I was reading of hers, and this one I ended up giving 3.5 stars to. Again, these are medieval historical romances. The audios are on Hoopla, and I feel like they're really done well. This one, though, it kind of took me a while to get into it, and took me a while to finish it as well, which is never a good sign for my reads. I really loved the first book in the series more, so this one just kind of didn't live up to the same hype for me. Basically, in here, the hero and the heroine wake up one morning and they find themselves in a compromising situation because they're both in the same bed together and they have no memories of the previous night. So it kind of leads them into having to marry. There's also another layer added to it because the hero was supposed to be kind of starting to see, maybe working towards a betrothal with the heroine's cousin. So it kind of gets complicated from there. This whole series follows brothers. And like I said, they're medieval, they're historical romances. I really enjoy this author's writing. So yeah, check it out if you want to. Next, I read Second Bite by S.G. Tilley, and I love this one so much. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. This is a holiday novella. It's inspired by the Great British Bake Off, and I had so much fun with this one. So we have age gap. It's a novella. It's set around a holiday baking competition show. The hero is this like silver fox judge hero, and the heroine is a plus size contestant on the show, and it's just so much fun. It's so steamy, it's so sweet. I loved it so much. Definitely check it out this season. Next, I read Right Place, Wrong Duke by Elisa Braden. This is a novella, part of her Midnights in Scotland series, and this one I gave 4 stars to. Elisa Braden is an auto-buy author for me who I've read all of her books, so anytime she has something new come out, I definitely jump into it, and this one I really enjoyed. So we have a widowed heroine and then a abduction gone wrong in this historical romance. So in this one, at the beginning of the story, the heroine is set off to abduct this duke for reasons, and so when she ends up grabbing him, she ends up mistaking him for his brother and grabs the brother of the duke / the hero instead. So the heroine's been kind of desperate to save her family, save her family's home, and she ends up grabbing, like I said, the wrong brother, and so it gets interesting from there, and I just really enjoyed the hero and the heroine's chemistry in here. So in the past, Elisa Braden's novellas haven't always worked for me, but this one, it worked so, so well, and I had a great time with it. Next, I had An Arc of the Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, and I love this one so much, I gave it 5 stars. So I originally read The Nanny from this author a couple months ago, and this one is her newest, and is totally different. Like, this one is kind of contemporary, but it also has paranormal wolf shifter vibes as well. So basically in here, the hero and the heroine are both wolf shifters. They work at a hospital and they're both doctors. So this one is just so much fun. I really loved it. I love the chemistry between the hero and the heroine. Basically in here, the heroine, kind of her grandmother keeps bugging her like to find a mate and settle down and all these things. And so she's on the phone with her one day when she's in the break room at work, and she's like, no, I totally have like a boyfriend. Like, I didn't tell you, I started seeing this guy at work. And so she blurts out the hero's name and kind of just thinks her grandmother will get over it. But her grandma's like, well, send me a selfie of you guys. And so she goes over to the hero and asks him for a selfie together. And so he's kind of known as this like gruff, kind of stoic, cold guy around the work. So like they're not even friends or anything, but he ends up like asking her like, well, why do you want a selfie with me? And so she tells him, and then he's like, well, actually, like, this could kind of work out for me. Like, will you just fake date me? And it goes from there. We find out that the hero needs like this date or a girlfriend at work because the board at the hospital finds out that he's an alpha. And for like the time they're living in, like alpha and omegas and all of those like kind of designations are rarer. And And so they have some like prejudices around the designations of wolf shifters as well. So they feel like alphas are going to be like very territorial and easily angry and just like hotheads. And so they feel like one that is mated is going to be more calm and docile and like easier to handle, easier to manage. And so he has to kind of show them that he has this mate, fake mate, hence the name of the book. So yeah, it's just so much fun because they both have like such good chemistry. It's super spicy, just so good. Like if you enjoy wolf shifter romances, you're definitely gonna love this one. And I feel like even if you're kind of new to it, that it has enough of like the contemporary vibe because like they're working in a hospital, they're doctors. I think they only shift once. And otherwise there is some like talk of breeding and going into heat and like the whole alpha omega situation. So there is all of that, but like it also feels contemporary too. So yeah, I just really love this one and gave it 5 stars. Next, I read A Festive Feud by Maren Moore, and this one I gave 4 stars to. This is a new holiday novella as well, and this one's just so much fun. So it's a small town setting, and the hero and the heroine in here, they are from feuding families. Like their families have been fighting for years, and both the hero and the heroine are kind of put in charge of hosting their annual like holiday parties for the year. So something goes wrong at the beginning of the story, ended up getting into this argument over a nutcracker at like a Christmas shop and destroying like thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. And so the city officials, like the police and the mayor and all that, get involved, and they're like, we're tired of your families fighting. So to punish them, they decided that they're going to have to plan their usually like separate annual Christmas parties like together, because the whole town is like, we're so sick and tired of having to like pick and choose which holiday party we go to. Like, can we just go to one? So it kind of goes from there, and it's just so much fun. So the heroine definitely has hateful feelings towards the hero, and he's kind of always kind of secretly been into her. So it's just so fun. Like we get some forced proximity, we get like an only bed situation when they go on a road trip. So good. All the like Christmas holiday cheer in a small town. I love this one. Next, I jumped into The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy, and I love this one so much. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. Basically, this is like a spin-off, a second-gen series from her Off-Campus and Briar U series, which I loved back in the day. So it felt just like so nostalgic being back with these characters, seeing some of the couples from that series become like parents now and around all of their kids who are now in their 20s. It was just so good. Like I loved it just for that, not gonna lie. But I also did love the romance in here and the chemistry between the hero and the heroine. So basically in here, the heroine, she's the daughter of the couple of the Deal, and so we get to see her with her family. We also see her as her own hockey star, and she plays for like the women's team of her college. And then the hero has just been recently transferred or like combined into one men's hockey team for the college as well. And so we kind of see them together and how they first meet as teenagers, and it doesn't go well, and like later on they end up becoming friends, and then after a while they of course start to have some other feelings for one another. It goes into this like friends with benefits kind of like secret relationship, which I always have a fun time with. The hero in here, he comes from a rough family, he has a rough backstory, so I really liked seeing kind of the discovering of that through the book, and then kind of seeing him find this family with the heroine and her family and her friends, and it was just so good. Like I loved it so much, had such a good time with it. Next, I had an audio ALC of Tell Me What You Want by Lucia Franco. This was actually my first time reading from this author, and I thought it was super fun for what it was, so I gave it 3.5/4 stars. Basically, this is a forbidden erotica romance with age gap, forced proximity, and brother's best friend as well. So like I mentioned, this was my first time reading from this author, and I went in knowing that it was more erotica than romance, so I feel like that definitely helped sway my opinion of it, and like I enjoyed it for what it was. In here, the heroine is a beauty influencer by day and a cam girl secretly by night. Like secretly, like her family doesn't know, her brother doesn't know. And so she always goes and films at like her family's cabin, and she goes there one night, and then the hero is actually staying there as well, which she didn't know about. And so she ends up seeing him, and he is her brother's best friend who's like been sent away to prison for years. So he's out now and gonna be staying at the house with her. And so yeah, she's always been into him, and she like immediately is into him again. So it definitely moves very fast, very like insta-lovey vibes, but like I said, it's like erotica, so I kind of expected it. There are just like tons of voyeurism and the whole like cam girl moments. They end up filming stuff together. There is of course going to be complications because of her brother. Like her brother became her guardian, and he's definitely not going to enjoy seeing his sister with his best friend. So we have that kind of angle going on the whole time. I will say the heroine wasn't my favorite thing. She wasn't my cup of tea, but in the end she kind of swayed me over, and I liked seeing them get their HEA together. So yeah, for what it was, I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. Gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I read A Lady's Rules for Ruin by Jennifer Haymore, and this one I ended up giving it 3 stars too. This is a historical romance, and basically in here the heroine decides she doesn't want to marry, and so the easiest solution is going to be to ruin her reputation so nobody wants to marry her, and so it kind of goes from there, and along the way she meets the hero as well and falls for him. This one, like I said, it was just okay for me. I've read a couple from this author, and they're always kind of like hit and miss. This one was sadly a miss for me. I feel like the romance just didn't do it for me. I feel like the romance doesn't really kick in until the halfway point. It's mostly seeing the heroine kind of help out the hero with his half-brothers and kind of things like that. So yeah, it was just kind of a miss for me, and yeah, 3 stars. Next, I jumped into King of Pride by Anna Huang. So this one I've been meaning to get to for forever, and I really wanted to get to King of Greed, so I decided to jump into the second book first. And this one totally surprised me, but not in the best way. So this one I ended up giving it 3 stars too. So basically, I have heard such good things about this one. I feel like everybody I know has given it 5 stars. They've loved it. And so I went in expecting to be blown away, to love it as well. And sadly, this one just like didn't work for me on kind of any level. Like, it was just okay. I had read the first book in the series like last year when it came out, which was King of Wrath. That one I really enjoyed, and this one just didn't do it for me. I feel like it was just very lackluster. I didn't care about the story, didn't care about the romance. Basically, this is a billionaire romance between the hero and the heroine. There's like some blackmail stuff going on. She's kind of forbidden because she works at the club that he's at. Oh yeah, I was just kind of bored by this one. So moving on, let's jump into King of Greed. All right, so then I jumped into King of Greed, and I loved this one so much. 5 stars. My new favorite in the series, my new favorite from Anna Huang. Like, I love this book so much. This book I was pulled in from the first sentence, the first paragraph. Like, I was obsessed. So basically this is a marriage, relationship, and trouble romance, and we get second chance in here, and it's just so good. I was here for the angst, for the pain, for the emotions. I love this one. When here the hero is a billionaire hero, he kind of came from nothing and has made his way up, and so he's very focused on just like the next best thing, the next big thing, the next like financial thing, the next best thing for his company, all of that. Like, he's very focused on making a name for himself and just doing better all the time. And so he's kind of been neglecting, well, not kind of, like, he has been neglecting his wife, who they were super in love. And like, we see flashbacks throughout the whole story, which added just so much more to it. And it was just so good. But yeah, so anyways, he has been neglecting his wife. He even forgets their 10-year wedding anniversary. And so she's like, you know what? Last straw, that's it. So she ends up leaving their house that night. And when he comes home and realizes that she left her wedding ring and is gone, he freaks out for, you know, good reason, and finally realizes like that he is losing her, that he lost her. And so it kind of goes from there of him trying to grovel and win her back. So yeah, just so good. I could talk more about it, but I don't want to spoil things, and like, I want people to experience it as well. I loved it. 5 stars. So good. Going to be one of my favorites of the year for sure. Next, I jumped into an audio of The Lights on Knockbridge Lane by Rowan Parrish. So that was my first time reading anything from this author, and I love this one so much. It is available on Hoopla, so definitely check there. So this is an holiday romance between a single dad hero who moves to a small town with his daughter, and then his romance with the other hero, who is kind of this like colder, keeps to himself kind of neighbor. This one was just so fun and so cute. I gave it 4 stars. Basically, people told me this was like a warm hug, and in a romance, and it definitely was that. I loved it so much. All the cozy vibes, super steamy too. Like, I love this one. Next up, I jumped into another new holiday romance, which is Wrapped Up in You by Nikki Ash. So I've read a couple from this author in the past, and this one sadly didn't work for me as well as some of the others, so I gave this one 3 stars. This is a holiday romance with a single mom heroine and a firefighter hero. This one was just a little too insta-lovey for me, so I wanted more from it. Basically, the heroine and her daughter end up moving to this Christmas village, which is the name of this town they moved to. And she ends up meeting the hero, who helps her out with like her grocery bill one day, like pays the difference and gets the groceries that she couldn't afford. And so he's very into her from there. He wants to make her and her daughter his and like take care of them. And it kind of jumps into that where she's kind of more hesitant because she has loved and lost in the past. And so she's afraid to kind of jump into a new relationship. So it goes from there, like I said, very insta-lovey. Like, if you kind of want a low angst, insta-lovey type of vibe, maybe check it out. But it sadly just didn't work for me super well. So I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read A Scandal for Christmas by Courtney Sharp. So this is a KU like novella historical romance, super short. I think it's like 40 pages. Gave this one 3 stars. I had read the other book in this series from this author a couple years ago, and so I decided to jump into this one. Basically, in here, the hero becomes a viscount after his brother passes away and leaves him the title, and so he also has to take care of his 2 nieces as well. So he's kind of just put them up in his country house with his mother who lives there, and they have this new governess, and so he kind of hears some things that are going on at the house, and he's like, what is going on out there? So he decides to show up there for the holidays. His mom's been bugging him, as well as to find out like what this governess is doing with his nieces. So of course the governess is the heroine, and it kind of goes from there. Very insta-lovey, but I guess for 40 pages of like a historical holiday romance, like, it was fine. So yeah, 3 stars. Next, I read All I Want for Christmas is a Cowboy by Jessica Clare, and I love this one so much I gave it 4 stars. So this is a cowboy western Christmas romance, and it was so much fun. This author has a whole series of them, which they're on Libby and Hoopla, so definitely check that out. So I decided to just start with the first one in the series, and I love this one. It has amnesia, it has a cowboy, it's Christmassy, they get snowed in together. It was just so fun. So the hero in this one works at a ranch, and he's the only one left there for kind of the holiday Christmas season. All the other ranch hands are going away to see family, and he's like, I've never got the hype of Christmas. Like, I'll stay and take care of the cattle. Someone has to do it. So one day while taking care of the cattle, he sees a car that crashed and realizes that the heroine is still inside the car. So he takes her out. She's unconscious. She comes to later, and she realizes that she has amnesia, and like, she barely remembers her name. She doesn't remember anything else. So they end up having to spend time together, and he's just this like very cold, stoic hero, like this cowboy. And so it becomes their romance. There's puppies involved, like all the cowboy western vibes. Like, I love this one, gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver, and this one I ended up giving it 4 stars too. So I've read a couple books from this author now. She's usually done like co-written books, so she had some darker serial killer romances in the past that I've read. Those ones I really enjoyed. This one has a more of like this kind of witty, dark humor to it, which I feel like was fun and definitely different, but like I didn't super love it. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Basically in here, we have 2 serial killers who find one another and find love along the way together. This one is very bloody, very gory, very detailed. Definitely a wild time. I feel like the audiobook was so good. The hero has an Irish accent, and it was amazing. This one, it just brings the steam, it brings the possessiveness, like it brings just all of these things. So I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't like my new favorite. So yeah, 4 stars. This month I was reading some people's like favorites of the year. So the next one is one of those as well, which is Forever Your Rogue by Erin Langston. So this is a new historical romance that dropped earlier this year. It's an indie one, and I had heard nothing but good things for this one. So I definitely went in with a lot of expectations, or with like a bunch of hype around it. And sadly, it just didn't work for me. I ended up giving it 3/3.5 stars. Basically in here, we have a widowed single mom heroine and kind of this like fake betrothal situation set up with the hero, because the heroine wants to save her children. Basically her husband, who like she was in a loveless marriage, when he passed away, he ended up leaving the guardianship of their children to his sister and brother-in-law instead of to the mom of the kids / his wife. So when she finds out that his relatives are trying to take her children away from her, she decides to jump in and kind of save them with whatever means possible, even if that means going into a fake betrothal. So the heroine and the hero kind of know each other from the past. She helped him out in the past, and he kind of owes her this debt. So she ends up calling that in, and that's where the like whole fake betrothal thing comes in. So like I said, I expected a lot for this one after hearing such rave reviews, and I was just never sold on the characters. Like, they were fine, but they weren't like favorites for me. I also felt like it was too long. It was too repetitive. Hero in here, he's just like instantly in with her and her children immediately, which I was like, I feel like you need a little bit more time to love these children like the way you're already proclaiming you love them. So that felt a little off for me as far as the pacing. But yeah, so it was okay. Like, I kind of want to check out more from this author maybe in the future. Maybe this one just wasn't for me. But I will say the epilogue and some of these like love letters we get from the hero to the heroine were so good. So for that alone, 3.5 stars. So then I jumped into The Duke Starts to Scandal by Sophie Jordan, and this one is the 4th book in a series from her. I thought it was the 1st book in a series, but it's not. So that said, this one was just like a major miss for me, and I gave it 2 stars. Basically in here, it's a class difference romance. We have the hero, who is a new duke. We have the heroine, who is his housekeeper. Goes from there. This one didn't work for me. Like, there's some secrets that happen and some things that are exposed from their past, and I just wasn't into it like ever. So yeah, 2 stars, on to the next. Then I jumped into Her Christmas Cowboy by Jessica Clare, and this one I ended up giving it 3 stars to. So this is another one in that Christmas Cowboy romance series from this author. I listened to the audio. Basically in here, the heroine is a teacher, and the hero has been into the heroine since the first time he saw her. He's kind of like new to town. He moved from Alaska to Wyoming, which I love that. I mean, I'm in Alaska, so anytime Alaska's mentioned, I'm just like, ooh. So the hero is kind of quiet and doesn't know how to talk to women, talk to the heroine. So he kind of makes everything awkward and just doesn't know how to talk to her or show her that he is into her. So he's kind of trying to like get up the nerve to ask her out. And so he starts sending her these like secret Santa gifts. So one day in town, somebody ends up taking credit for it and asking the heroine out on a date. And so he's like, oh, no. Like, those are actually from me, and like, we need to go out. So it kind of goes from there. Like, I thought it was okay. I liked the first one in the series more. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. Then I jumped into Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. So this is the first book in her new Lakefront Billionaire series. And this one I gave 3 stars to and was kind of disappointed. This one was just so long, and sadly I feel like it didn't need to be. It took me so long to finish this one. I had to like restart it actually twice, which rarely happens. So yeah, that's never a good sign for me. This author, I'd really enjoyed a couple of her books from her Dirty Air series, which was like an F1 romance series. So I've always been trying her other stuff to kind of get that same feel that I've had in those books, and it's never really worked out for me. So maybe I just need to like take a break and stop reading her books. So we'll see. But yeah, this one just didn't do it for me. It goes from childhood friends to rivals to lovers. The hero and the heroine, their moms are best friends, so they've always been raised around one another, and now they're having to work together as well. The heroine has like this interior design show, and the hero kind of owns this like construction or renovation or house building company. So she's back home after a broken engagement, and they decide to kind of work on this house together. They plan to build/renovate this house together and then split the profits at the end. So yeah, this one, it like had moments that I would really like and really enjoy, but then the rest of it was just so long and so drawn out that it made me second guess liking those moments that I had liked. So I don't know, that's never great for me, and I gave it 3 stars. So then I decided to kind of switch up things and jumped into The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. This is the 3rd book in her 5-pack series, which is a paranormal werewolf shifter rejected mates series. So this one I ended up giving it 3.5 stars to. This one I have loved the series. Book 1 is still my favorite, and so book 3 and 4 recently came out on audio, so I jumped into book 3. These are paranormal wolf shifter romances with the rejected mate trope, which work so well for me just because of how much the heroes have to like grovel and work to earn the heroine back. A couple of this one was kind of been teased in the previous books, so I did like finally seeing their story. I just wasn't as sold with kind of their dynamic and relationship, but I still enjoyed it. So yeah, 3.5/4 stars. Next, I jumped into an arc of You're the Duke That I Want by Lenore Bell. This is a new historical romance coming from her at the end of December, so I had an arc of it and jumped into it. It's the start of a new series, and it's basically Greece in a historical romance. So this one I sadly ended up giving it 3 stars to. It didn't sway me over. It's like a very low 3 if I'm being honest. I thought this one was just okay. Like I kind of wanted something more. Like I love Grease. I love the story, love the musical, all of those things. Grew up watching the movie so many times. So I had really high hopes for this one being Grease inspired, but it's literally just like a Grease retelling. Like you could tell where the music's supposed to play. Like everything was just a little too on the nose for me, and I wanted kind of more inspired, like you kind of notice the little hints and winks if you know the story. But instead it's just like a straight up retelling of Greece, but make it historical. Like we have the Pink Ladies, the hero's the Duke of Rydell. We have a bunch of character names that are straight out of the movie. We have the hero having this like racing curricle, which is called Lightning Streak. Like it was all just very too on the nose for me, and I wanted a little bit more. Like there's straight up like dialogue just straight from the movie and the book. So yeah, it didn't work for me super well. So like I can't tell if you will like it more if you're less familiar with Greece or if you love Greece. I'm curious how people will feel about this one once it comes out. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Then I jumped into Her Naughty Holiday by Tiffany Reese. This is part of her Men at Work series, which is like a trilogy, and we get different holidays. So there's been one for Halloween, Christmas, and this is a Thanksgiving one. It was the last one I needed to read. So I gave this one 3.5/4 stars. This one, all the audios are on Libby and Hoopla, so definitely check there. I had such a good time with this one. Like I actually listened to it while I was doing some Thanksgiving baking, and it was just such a fun time. Basically in here, we have a single dad hero, we have the heroine, we have some like fake dating / gonna fake date situation. Heroine is a successful business owner. She owns like a plant nursery, and her family just doesn't see her success as like an actual success. They feel like she's just like messing around and like having a good time with plants, and like they feel like she should get a real job, find a husband, like all of these things. And so she's kind of dreading the holidays and being around them. And this year she has been voluntold by her family that she has to host Thanksgiving as well. So she's not looking forward to it. So in here, the heroine has like this teenage assistant, and the father of her assistant is the hero. And so the assistant kind of plays a little matchmaking and sets up her boss with her dad. So it kind of goes from there. And then we learn that the hero has been secretly into the heroine for the past year, but like doesn't want to make a move on her because she is his daughter's boss. So yeah, I had a good time with this one. I liked seeing how everything played out, how the hero's super protective. They're very steamy. Like it's just so good. Love this whole series. So definitely check it out for the holidays. Next, I had an arc of Broken Dreams by Corinne Michaels. This is the 2nd book in her Whitlock family series. And this one I sadly ended up giving 3 stars to. This is small town. We also have 2 single parents, and they're both widowed as well, which I actually did like to see because I feel like we never really see 2 widowers together. We usually only see like one parent who's maybe lost their spouse in the past, but in here we had both of them who've lost their spouses. So I did like seeing that and kind of the emotional element it brought to the story. But in here we get fake dating as well. And I feel like fake dating like has become such a popular trope that it doesn't work for me as well as it used to in the past. I feel like there's just so many fake dating romances lately and they don't always hit. So that was kind of the case for this one. But yeah, it was okay. It was also one of those books where like I feel like the steamy times doesn't equal out to how the hero and the heroine are in the non-steamy times. Like, do you ever read books like that where it feels like they're totally different characters than how they are the rest of the book? Yeah, I kind of had some issues with it. I did love the first book in the series so much. So I don't know. This one was just okay, 3/3.5 stars. Then I was kind of just not on a roll, so I jumped into an arc of Sable Peak by Devney Perry, and this one just didn't work for me very well either. I gave this one also 3 stars. Basically, this is the 6th and final book in the Edens series, which is a small town series set around this family in Montana. I have loved Devney Perry books in the past. I've read all of her books, so I was really looking forward to this one, and it sadly just didn't do it for me. So basically in here we have a single dad hero, it's a small town, and here we have unrequited love from the heroine. Like, she's been pining after him for years. So I feel like that didn't really work for me. The entire setup in the beginning didn't work for me. So I'll be curious how other people feel about this one because it comes out on December 7th. So I feel like this series has just kind of peaked for me at Juniper Hill, and everything else since then has just been kind of, I don't know, lackluster, hit and miss. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So this one was okay, 3 stars. So then I jumped into Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young, and I love this one so much. I gave it 4.5/5 stars. This one was just so good and kind of blew me away. So I remember seeing people love it when it first came out earlier this year, and I just never got around to it. So I decided to jump into it, and I'm so glad I did because I loved it. So this is the first book in her Highlands series, which is kind of a spin-off from her Adair family series, which I want to go back now and read. But this one was so good. It's basically a Scottish Highlands setting. The heroine is American, and she's kind of been on the run because of some things that happened at the beginning of the story with her in the US. And so she's moved to Scotland with her daughter, and she's working as a housekeeper there at this like estate. She knows the hero because he works as a bodyguard for the family who owns the estate as well. And so he's kind of this like gruff, grumpy bodyguard, which gruff and grumpy always work for me. And so we see this pairing of them. It has romantic suspense in it. I love this one. It was so much fun. I loved how the heroine in here kind of has to convince the hero to give in to her because she's like, listen, I'm just looking for a good time. Like, are you into it or not? Like, I'm not trying to catch feelings for you. So I love that. So yeah, I just had a good time with this one. I'm so glad I caught up to it in time because book 2 drops beginning of December, and I cannot wait to jump into that one next. Next, I jumped into You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Tony Shiloh. So I jumped into this one night when I needed just like a quick audiobook. It was a Christmas read. It was on Libby. It was available, so I jumped into it. It just looked cute from the cover as well, and I saw that it was Brother's Best Friend, so I decided to give it a go because it was short. So basically it didn't work for me, and I gave it 2/2.5 stars. I didn't know before going in that it's closed door, which doesn't always bother me. Like, I don't mind a closed door romance. I don't like specifically go out seeking them, but sometimes in the past, like, they've worked for me, so that wasn't my issue. My issue was that this one was like faith-based, which is not described on Goodreads or anywhere that I saw. And I saw some other people's reviews as well after I finished it that were saying the same thing. Like, they didn't know that going in. And so, like, if I would have known that, I wouldn't have picked it up. So yeah, the characters and the dialogue didn't work for me. It was also just kind of like Hallmark with like a bunch of family drama and all of that going on. And I don't know, it just wasn't it. Then I jumped into Rain Me In by Kayla Grouse. This one had been on my TBR for quite some time. I finally got to it because the audio dropped. It's on Hoopla, it's on Libby. Definitely check it out. I had such a good time with this one. I gave it 4 stars. So like I mentioned from the other book I read from this author this month, that she writes plus size characters, which I love to see. So in here we have a plus size heroine, and here we have the cowboy small town setting with her late brother's best friend. So basically here the heroine's brother passed away 5 years in the past, and she hasn't returned home ever since, but her mother ends up getting injured and needs help around the family farm. So the heroine comes back to help out, and she runs into the hero as well, who was, like I mentioned, one of her brother's best friends, and he recently lost his father as well. So we do have both of them kind of grieving and going through the loss of somebody they loved / a family member. So I just really like the emotions and all of that happening in here. I liked in here how the heroine is 5 years older than the hero, and she was always his like secret crush growing up, which I loved that. So yeah, I loved how he was all in and just needed to convince her to be with him. It was just so cute, so sweet. Love the emotions. Definitely steamy. Definitely check it out. Then lastly, I jumped into A Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lawley, and this one I ended up giving it 3 stars to. This one sounded so good, but sadly just ended up being okay for me. It was very insta-lovey, and the heroine didn't always work for me. So basically in here, the heroine ends up losing her job when the story starts, and so she ends up deciding to take that time to go to her best friend's wedding in India. And so she takes off, she goes there, and she ends up meeting the hero there and instantly falls for him and wants to jump all in with him. We had a little bit of the holiday time there while she's there, but basically it's around her best friend's wedding and kind of this like friend honeymoon they go on with the couple as well after the wedding, and just like a bunch of like friend time where the hero is there as well. And we see the heroine just deciding what she's going to do with her future. She wants to like make him a priority, all of these things. So yeah, it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. The Libby audio was a fun time, but otherwise like I wanted a little bit more, wanted it less insta-lovey. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. All right, so that was a quick rundown of the 38 books I read in November. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, what your favorite reads for November were. If you're going to pick any of these up, I'd love to know. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I'll see you in my next one.